What's up, everybody? Jimmy Hamilton here, along with Chris Urrutia, who's one of the instructors here at Vortex Edge. And we're going to have a number of videos coming out for everybody, and a lot of them are going to be around some various different training things, and a lot of it's even some stuff that'll be going over in classes at Vortex Edge. But wanted to give this for you guys who are out there just learning virtually. But first things first, we feel as though a lot of people nowadays are getting into firearms for the first time. They don't really know where to start, and we feel a great place to start is with the pistol. And if you're in a position where you don't even have your pistol yet, well, this is the right video to start with. And then when it comes to the training things and some actual practical applications of the pistol, we'll get into that pretty soon here. But Chris, thanks for joining us. I know you love the topic of somebody getting their first gun and their first pistol. Why do you feel the pistol is a great place to start in general? Let's say even if it's square one first gun.
Well, honestly, it's something that could translate very easily from whether you just want to target shoot or if it's something that you want to carry every single day. It's a great starting point for someone and it's so versatile as a platform.
Yeah, and it seems like if you learn how to shoot well with a pistol, a lot of those same fundamentals of marksmanship with a pistol translate really well over to things like the carbine, and even actually, oddly enough, the long-range rifle.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Got to know the trigger control, got to understand how to manipulate the firearm itself. Now, there are a number of varying opinions when it comes to purchasing your first pistol in general, and we're going to get into our own sort of best recommendations that we would put out there. Now, some people may disagree, but that's kind of the nature of the beast. It is what it is. There are so many options in pistols out there on the market. We only have a few of them in front of us, but I mean, you go to any store, it seems as though the most extensive portion of that store in a gun shop is probably the pistol section. And it can be a little bit overwhelming. We have different sizes, different shapes and forms, and we have polymer frame, metal frame, different chamberings, which is a big argument in and of itself. So we're gonna kind of go into a pretty good general rule of thumb, right? What are some of the things that people are going to see when they first go in the gun store? I mean, as far as like, you're gonna have full-size guns, you're gonna have your mid-size, compact. Anything else that they should just be aware of and looking at?
Yeah, I wouldn't get too wrapped around like general appearance. Some pistols might be, your stainless steel. You might have black polymer. You might get crazy and get something into like Coyote FDE. I wouldn't really worry about aesthetics so much as I would just get into the general functionality of the gun.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah. Now, I know one thing that I hear all the time when people are first getting a pistol is that they think right off the bat that maybe getting something that their dad or their grandpa used, like a 1911 would be a good idea. Or even conversely, sometimes people will go and they'll think, well, pistol, gun thing, I'm still not quite sure. Maybe I should get something smaller and more compact, because then that's not as intimidating as a big gun, right? How about a few of those things? Can we dispel a few of those?
So personally, I've never been issued a 1911. I've shot plenty of them in my time, of course, but it's not necessarily one of those things that I would recommend making your very first purchase right off the bat. Is it something great that you might want to pick up later on? Sure, but I might not make that my initial investment. The other side of that is getting something super compact that's going to make shooting generally not a lot of fun. It's going to be snappy and kind of tough to learn on. I don't know that I would go that route either.
Yeah, it's actually kind of counterintuitive, because I think a lot of times people think that the size of gun dictates what you'll be feeling in terms of recoil.
Right.
And actually, the smaller the gun, the snappier and more intense that recoil impulse is going to be.
Right, yeah, 100%.
And we see guys all the time, they go out and they get one for like a spouse or a kid or something like that, and they think, well, this is great because it's your size, or you're just starting, try this. Right. And then meanwhile, they're actually making it a worse experience in general.
No, I agree, and I find the exact same thing to be true. Even for my wife, we certainly invested in a compact gun for her, and she comes out and shoots my 19 one day, which is kind of a compact to mid-sized gun, and she loved it, and she's a great shot with it. So it all depends on what application, what you want to accomplish with it, for sure.
For sure. Yeah. You bring up application. Obviously, that's an important thing to sort of want to know about yourself and what you're going to be using the pistol for. And just know this video here is kind of intended for somebody who's looking for more of a general purpose pistol. If you're going out and right off the bat, the only thing you're going to be doing with it is competition, well then maybe your preferences may look a little bit different than what we're suggesting here. Or if the only thing you're going to be doing with it, literally the only thing is concealed carry, then maybe some things will be a little bit different. We're talking about a gun that's going to maybe sit on the nightstand, maybe get you involved in some competitions, maybe you take it to a class like we have here at Vortex Edge. You're really just trying to learn a lot of new things and figure out what your main applications are going to be. So on the cart here in front of us, we've got a few Glocks. Now, that's not to say that Glock is the only brand that you can get. It's one that we use pretty heavily here, but I think that really it's just important to find a reputable manufacturer.
Absolutely.
Out there. And so this is one of them. And actually, it just makes it really easy to compare across the line because, anytime you go to a various different manufacturer, they might split up their lines slightly differently. So we're just going to keep all things consistent here. But we have Glock 43, this is like one of those real subcompact little guys like we were just talking about earlier. Maybe not your first choice. But then you have stuff like a Glock 19. You've got your Glock 17s. Noticing all these are chambered in 9mm.
Correct, yeah. And this is one of the newer releases is the Glock 45 and MOS variant.
Right,
Yep.
right. And the big thing there is it's kind of like a hybrid between a 17 and a 19, right?
Exactly.
So you've got, what is it now? Is it 17 frame?
The 17 frame and the 19 slide.
Okay, or grip length, I suppose, because it's probably a slightly different frame in general.
Right.
But yeah, so you get a little bit of like a shorter length with a longer handle for, I guess you can fit in a larger magazine, more magazine capacity, and then if you got bigger mitts.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right.
Cool.
So the beauty of something like a 19 and a 17 and even dropping down a step further to the 26 and going up all the way up to something like a Glock 34, they all use the exact same mag.
Right.
So one 17 round mag gets you that continuity across the board there, right? The only difference being that the Glock 19 comes standard 15 round capacity. You can't put a 15 rounder inside of something that has a standard size frame. Would be the only variant there.
Right, got it. Yeah, if the mag is too short, then it won't fit all the way up into the mag well. But if you have a mag that's longer than the magazine that your pistol came with, it will work.
Exactly right.
Makes perfect sense. So these are really good starts in general for somebody who's looking at getting their first pistol, right? Because you can do a little bit of everything with it.
Exactly right. Yep.
What considerations are you telling somebody who's kind of looking at that mid-size, your 19 or your full-size 17? What's the big difference between those? Why would one choose one over the other?
Honestly, you just need to look at yourself. For a guy like me, I can get away with probably concealing something like a Glock 17, right, on my person.
Okay.
Whether that's, standard 3 o'clock carry or something, appendix. I feel that I can get away with this. You know what I mean? And keep this on my person and not print so much that, I'm giving myself away. Whereas somebody else might feel a little more comfortable concealing something like a 19. It's going to be a little shorter, a little bit of a shorter frame, and you can see that kind of sits on the body a little tighter and doesn't print at all.
Yeah, and depending on too, like the kind of clothing that you wear.
Right.
Different people have different styles. That's cool. Yeah. If you wear clothes that are generally a little bit tighter, you're probably not going to be able to conceal a bigger gun, even if you are, not the smallest person or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, one thing, and we're kind of jumping around here a little bit, but all these firearms here are polymer frame. I think there was a time we seem to be mostly out of it, but there was sort of a time when that seemed like, how could you possibly have a gun that you can sort of depend your life on? Yeah. And it's made of plastic.
Yes.
That's pretty well dispelled at this point. I think plenty of people have used these things and serious.
At this point, I think so. Backing up to my military career, I was issued a Beretta 92, which is mostly metal, right? Mm-hmm. And then I went into my law enforcement career, and I was issued a polymer framed Glock 21, and that led my first personal purchase of a firearm to be kind of dictated by what I was issued, right? Because I like continuity across the board with my stuff. I have yet to find a reason to not carry or not like a polymer frame gun, and I mean we're talking close to 20 years now. Yeah, running polymer framed guns. So,
all right, and we touched on this a little bit earlier. We didn't really fully dive into it, but again, another one of the things that we're working with here is 9mm, and I guess to somewhat, if we're on already the train of disposing a few myths. Yeah. Again, one that's been talked about a lot if you are quite involved in the firearms industry, but if you're just coming into it, you'll look at, say, a 9mm and see that there are larger caliber options. You got your 40 Smith & Wesson, you've got your 45, you've got, a smattering of other different options. Those are probably the three most popular, I would say, unless I'm forgetting one off the top of my head. There is a little 10 mil. So why 9mm for somebody looking for their first pistol?
Yeah. Again, I just go back to, kind of my upbringing in pistols is I've been issued a 45, right? It's certainly a really powerful round, and I've seen what they can do to the human body. And, they're great for defense situations, but in terms of affordability and all the testing that has occurred, especially here recently, to show that a 9mm round, either holds up or is comparable to something of a higher caliber, then, why not go with the 9mm?
Right.
I kind of landed on these Federal HST rounds, and they're great. They hold their mass, going through the human body, and they're just a great carry option. And there's certainly other rounds out there, but for me, just why not go 9mm? And I've since gotten rid of all my 45 caliber pistols, and I've gone 9mm across the board. And
then when it comes to the recreational shooting side of things, whether it's competition or just plinking around at the range and having fun, it's kind of just easier to deal with 9mm, right?
In my opinion, it is, and it just makes the shooting experience enjoyable overall for me.
Yeah.
And it's just my go-to recommendation for people looking to get into it.
Of course, we know that it can be a little bit hard to find at times, but that's just one of the things you got to deal with.
Right.
When you get the opportunity, buy some. Don't ever say, "Oh, I'll get it later when I need it," because when you need it might be when the rest of the world also feels they need it as well. Let's talk too. So we'll jump around again here. We'll go up to the slide. One thing that I'm seeing is sights. That's a big thing that people consider.
Yep.
And nowadays we're seeing a lot more red dots on top of guns. Now there are some factory options that you can go with, like the Glock MOS, the Smith & Wesson M&P Core. You've got your Springfield OSP and a ton of other ones. And if I didn't mention any, it's not to offend any of our other friends in the industry, but lots of options out there where you can put a red dot on top. Now, is that, again, I'm just starting out, right?
Yep.
I feel like if I look at a pistol, I'm like, well, we're going to throw in an optic. I'm going to have to adjust it. I'm going to have to figure out how to use this optic. That seems like another added layer of complexity. Maybe I should just go with the old tried and true irons.
Yep.
Is there any thought there as to maybe you should avoid the optics ready ones, or are they go with them,
I would leave yourself the option, right? I wouldn't. You got to consider that if you go with an iron sight only pistol, and eventually if you make the decision that you want to put a red dot on it, you're going to have to send it out to have milled, to have it specifically cut for an optic. So you're looking at lead times, you're looking at a cost there, and overall, who wants to be without their gun for an undetermined amount of time while you wait for your gun to come back, right? I would go ahead and get it optic ready, just because again, it just leaves your options open. And if if you're not currently running an optic, a lot of these guns come with kind of a space saver, and you wouldn't be able to tell that it's there anyway.
Yeah, you can still use your irons just like you would if you don't want to go with the optic. Yep. I can tell I've done the custom gun route a few times, getting something milled out for an optic. It is really cool if you're really into custom stuff. It's a neat process, and you end up with a product that I think usually looks a little bit cleaner, maybe a little bit more unique than, say, just a factory optics ready pistol. But to your point, you're going to have to deal with that lead time, and also you're going to have to deal with the fact that, let's say, a company like Vortex goes along and they just continue developing like we like to do.
Right.
And they come out with a new optic. It's got a different footprint, slightly different external shape, anything like that. It only has to be a minor change, and then all of a sudden it doesn't fit in your gun anymore, and you're going to have to get a new slide.
Right. Yeah. So there's always that too. Yeah.
It is worth considering. Now, are there any sort of accessories? Let's say, again, I go out and all I'm thinking about is the gun. If I'm in my first firearms purchase, I get to the store and I'm like, all right, I got to get a gun.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget the fact that, well, all right, if I'm going to shoot it in competition or carry it, I'm going to have a means of carrying it on my person. Or if I'm going to be, doing any number of things, I'm going to have to maybe have some extra magazines.
Right.
Maybe I'm going to have a light if I want to use it for primarily home defense or something. Or what accessories should someone go into the store ready to also look at?
right off the bat, it depends, right? So if you're looking for something that's strictly target shooting, then you're gonna want just, and I have something down here, just like a good rigid belt.
Oh, yeah,
and
big
an
belt.
outside the waistline holster, right? So you got that. If your intention is just pick it up, go competition shooting, this is a bare minimum right here, right? Otherwise, if your intention is to carry it every day, then I would start looking at inside the waistband holster, something like this appendix rig here. You can certainly carry through your clock. So just a means of carrying your firearm, right? There's not a whole bunch of ranges and situations that allow you to shoot from a holster, but it's still a good means of adding just a layer of protection. And again, if you plan on carrying it on your body, you're going to want a solid holster. And again, like you said, if you plan on carrying every day, I like carrying firearms that have a weapon-mounted light on them.
Okay.
So just like this is my Glock 45, and I've got a Surefire X300 on that. Again, it goes with me everywhere I go.
Nice.
And honestly, a lot of the newer generations of handguns out these days come just equipped, ready to go right outside the box.
So it seems like.
Yep, just like these Gen 5 Glocks here, especially the 45 and the 17. I mean, the triggers on them are solid. I know there's a lot of aftermarket parts and definitely a lot of options out there, but they come just ready to go. The trigger's great. Now, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I haven't swapped the triggers out on these, but honestly, they have the same, if not, maybe slightly better feel as the Glock stock triggers.
Okay.
In the Gen 5s.
Yeah, there are a lot of mods that you can start going with right off the bat.
Right.
I know it's easy for some people to want to just go in right away, just be thinking, I'll get this factory pistol, but I'll switch that out, I'll switch that out. Maybe I feel like for somebody who's just starting, just shoot it the way it comes from the factory.
Yep.
And get used to it and figure out maybe if there's something that you would like improved upon,
right,
if you will.
And I think a lot of us, in the circles that we run, we might know someone that has an accessory that you're thinking about. I would, ask them, hey, can I get some trigger time behind your X, your trigger, your sights, your light, and I would make a better informed decision that way as to just blindly reading comments on the internet and buying and picking something up. You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, cool. I feel like that's some pretty good advice. Is there anything else, too, that you just want to say to that, again, first-time gun buyer going out and searching for that pistol? Anything else?
I would honestly just suggest that you find a gap that you're trying to fill and then find a solution for that, right? And once you do that, go with somebody reputable, a gun that's going to be good to go right out of the box, and then pick up some training aids, right? I'm all about dry fire and just getting familiar with your gun right out of the box, right? So something as simple as a dummy round that might cost less than $1. Your gun will typically come with 2 to 3 mags. Flag one of those as a training mag and fill it with some training ammunition, right? And that's not going to be a huge investment. Again, $1 or so, and then you can go on the internet and print off whatever targets and just stand there and just become familiar with it. I would do that before I would go blowing a bunch of money on aftermarket parts. Do your due diligence. Pick up some ammo. Make sure you have ammo on hand, and guys just train. Just train with it.
Yeah. I'll throw out my 2 cents as well. I'm the kind of guy, I have many weird, odd, unique, and cool firearms in my safe right now, but I can tell you that they are often a pain in the butt to own because nobody else knows really how to work on them or what little quirks they might have. It's hard to find parts, and oftentimes I just can't relate to everybody else who's on the range, and I wind up in wishing that I got the thing that really is probably the most popular thing that a lot of other people have. And even though we all kind of have that desire to be a little bit unique, or you look at it and you're like, it's just another black polymer pistol, I kind of want something cooler. Just know that there's probably a reason that some of the pistols on the market today are so widely used and so popular, and it's because usually those ones are the really good ones. And so don't shy away from that. Again, just if you think it's for whatever reason not quite as cool as you were hoping. Guns aren't necessarily just meant to be cool. They're a ton of fun, but they're really, really effective tools.
Yeah. So. And the last thing I'll say is, if you walk into a gun store and you see a bunch of the same gun kind of hanging out there, they're available in these times for a very specific reason, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to personally be trusting, my result at a competition or my personal safety to, that last kid waiting to get into the fight. So That's just my opinion. I would make a decision, find something you like, invest the time and money into getting exactly what you want.
Sweet, so on the next video, we're gonna talk about you got the pistol and I need to familiarize yourself with it. Things like getting used to the trigger, dry firing, manipulating the firearm, all that good stuff. If you like these videos, definitely like and subscribe to the channel here because we're gonna have a lot more coming just like this. And stay tuned for that next one. Thanks, everybody.